at discoveries which are being made all the time. So I give you the floor.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Khan. My pleasure to present my presentation about the monastic traditions between the region of Red Sea and the region of al-Natrun. I will speak in three main points. First of all, the early relationship between the regions of al-Natrun and Red Sea. The beginning of relationship between the two regions occurred at the hands of the founders of monasticism in both regions, namely Saint Anthony and Saint Martyrus. Number one, Saint Martyrus as a disciple of Saint Anthony the Great. It seems that the monastic order established by Saint Anthony was formed in the area of Shidi. The book Historium Natur tells us that Saint Martyrus was a disciple of Saint Anthony. Saint Anthony said to him, "My spirit has come upon you, and you will be an heir to my virtues." This is also mentioned in the book of al-Natrun. The Arabic manuscript written by Surian, the disciple of Saint Anthony, relating his biography, tells us that Saint Martyrus became a disciple of Saint Anthony through two important visits. He paid 3 years after he reached the area Shihid. The motive of the first visit in 343 AD, because he needed to guide to teach him the monastic life. As for the second visit paid by Saint Martyrus to Saint Anthony, it was mentioned in al-Natrun and in the Arabic and the Coptic manuscript by Surian. He asked him to dress him in the scheme, and he did. That is why Saint Martyrus was called a disciple of Saint Anthony. Number two, Saint Anthony's visit to the regions of Nitria and Nicaea. The monastic historian Rufinus mentioned this visit, and the al-Natrun also. That Anba asked Saint Anthony to choose a place for habitation of monks. Anthony answered, "When we eat our meal at the 9th hour, we will move into the desert to see the suitable place." They kept moving till sunset, and then Saint Anthony turned to Anba and said, "Let us pray and raise the cross so that anyone who wants to go and live here will follow our example. If the brethren want to visit them later, they can have their meal at the 9th hour and set off to visit them. Also, if those living here want to visit their brethren, they will reach them at sunset." Number three, Saint Anthony's disciples in al-Natrun, such as Antuniyus and Surian the Great, Yusuf the Great, Amun, the father of Nitria, Martyrus of Alexandria, Saint Ur, and Saint Isa. Our adventures became a disciple of Saint Anthony at the early age. Later, he went to Securities in al-Natrun and became a disciple of Saint Martyrus after the departure of whom he became the head of the monastic community. Later, he lived there till the age of 90. Saint Surian the Great is said to He is a chief disciple of Saint Anthony. After the partition of Saint Anthony, he moved and lived in the cities and kept company with Saint Martyrus and wrote his biography, leaving it to posterity as a living testimony to the life of Saint Martyrus. As for Saint Joseph the Great, the first source from which he learned the monastic life was Saint Anthony himself, as he visited him a lot with the He used to listen to and learn from him without asking questions. After the year 350 AD, he moved to Shahid in Wadi al-Natrun, where he became a head for many monks. He left him at the age of 90. Saint Amon was the founder of the monastic community in Nitria. It is known that he visited Saint Anthony many times to become his disciple, and Saint Anthony venerated him so much. He departed around 337 AD, and it is worth mentioning that Saint Anthony knew of his departure. Saint Martyrus of Alexandria was said to be the spiritual father of the area of Helia, became a disciple of Saint Anthony in 335 AD, and he moved to Nitria after the partition of Saint Amon. He was ordained a priest around 355 AD. When he became eager to live a life of solitude, he moved to south of Helia, which caused him to this area. There are monks from the monastery of Saint Anthony moved to Wadi al-Natrun, as like Anba, Bishop of Tomain and Dayr, who lived in Kalsama and moved to Wadi al-Natrun. He has 4 sayings in the book of al-Natrun. It is not known in which period he lived. Number 4. Monks from Wadi al-Natrun moved to the Red Sea for discipleship, such as John the Little, Shishoi, Isaac, the head of Nitria, Anba, Binan, Anba, The monastery of Saint Anthony became a shelter for the monks who fled Wadi al-Natrun during the raids of the Papals on this region in 407 AD, which resulted in the dispersing of the monks of Syria. Saint John the Shore moved to the area of Kansama and lived in the mountain bordering the Red Sea in 409 AD. It mentions that in the manuscript of the biography of Saint John the Little. The book entitled The Sayings of the Fathers said about Saint Shishoi, a brother asked Abba Shishoi, who how came did you abandon cities where you live with Abba and come to live here? The father replied, when the number of people began to increase and hear of the departure of Abba Anthony, I came here, and when I found the place quiet, I lived for some time. The brother asked, how long have you been living here? The father replied, for 72 years. time, the teachings of Saint Anthony are transferred to Wadi al-Natrun through its fathers. The teachings of Saint Martyrus included many of the teachings of Saint Anthony. For example, Saint Martyrus quoted Saint Anthony when he said, "O my son, I say to you that staying in the cell is better than visiting others, as a time will come when people will make fun of those stayings in their cells. In this case, the words of Saint Anthony will be fulfilled when he said that if they saw anyone who was not depraved like them, they would rise against him, saying, 'You are an ignorant,' because he did not resemble them." He also said about the wars of devils, "All kinds of diabolical wars were waged against me as prophesied by Saint Anthony." Saint Antuniyus also quoted Saint Anthony concerning the basis of pity, which is faith. He said, "O my son, strive in everything you do," as Saint Anthony said, "in this age. Everyone should make a church out of himself, meaning that he should do his best to purify himself, which is the church of God, so that we will send upwards praises to the Holy Trinity in different voices. So our faith recognition of Orthodox Church. The father's spirits used to visit Saint Anthony in his cave in Wadi, asking for his guidance. It is mentioned in the al-Natrun, some of the brethren of the cave visited Abba Anthony, and also some of the fathers visited Abba Anthony, and Abba Joseph was with them also. Saint Pambo asked Saint Anthony, "What should I do?" The father replied, "Don't trust your own rightnesses, don't worry about the past, and control your tongue and your stomach." The second, the relations between the two regions in the Middle Ages. We read in the Coptic Synaxarium under 29 of Misra, when Pope John 48 of Alexandria, it happened in 515 AM, 799. Relocation of relics of Saint John the Short moved to Kalzama, directly to Monastery of Saint John the Short in Wadi al-Natrun. At the time of Pope Gabriel Ibn Shabu 1525-1569 AD, he sent 20 monks from the monastery of Surian from Wadi al-Natrun to the monastery of Saint Anthony, and he sent also 10 monks to the monastery of Saint Paul for reconstruction and to populate them again, which had been in ruins and uninhabited by monks for almost 20 years. So in the year 1484 AD, the traveler Felix Fabry and companion Bernard von said, and here are seen today the deserted monasteries of the Holy Fathers Anthony, Martyrus, Paul, the first hermit, and many others no monk is here. C. When the monks of the monastery of Alexandria reconstructed the monastery of St. Anthony, they brought to it a number of manuscripts which constituted the core of the new library. Constantine the First, who was the abbot of the monastery of Surian, renounced his position because of some troubles between him and Father Dayr, so that he removed to the monastery of St. Anthony and lived there. The Hormomen Samuel Tadros mentions in his book that one of the manifestation of the strong relations between the monastery of Surian and the monastery of St. Anthony, that Hormomen Abdul Quddus, the abbot of the monastery of Surian, helped Hormomen Dawood al-Sawam'i, the abbot of St. Anthony Monastery, by money to finance some buildings there in the monastery of St. Anthony. And we know that Father Dawood al-Sawam'i became a pope after that. Pope Carolus IV. Two, Bokshi notices that the Pukunmai reorganizes the monastic life in the monastery of St. Paul. Maybe it's true that history repeats itself. His Holiness Pope Shenouda, who was from the monastery of Surian, reconstructed the monastery of St. Paul with assistance of two bishops from the same monastery, Bishop Agason of Ismailia. He did about 18 years ago, and Metropolitan Pachomius, he Metropolitan of Antuniyus now. Thirdly, wall paintings depicting the sanctity of the two regions in the churches of the two regions. The ancient church of St. Anthony in the Red Sea includes wall paintings representing the great leaders of Monasticism in Wadi al-Natrun. On the other side, on the third floor of the cave of the monastery of St. Martyrus in Wadi al-Natrun, there in the church holding the name of St. Anthony on its northern wall, there are three wall paintings to St. Anthony and St. Paul with two lions under him back to 1517. So that the monks in St. Anthony Monastery appreciate the Greek fathers from Wadi al-Natrun, so that they painted in the walls in the main church in Monastery St. Anthony. This is Father Surian, Maximus and Domitius, Father John the Little also, and Father Joseph, the fathers of Wadi al-Natrun, and here the St. Anthony and St. Paul in the walls in the church inside the tower of St. Martyrus Monastery. The conclusion. Number one, St. Anthony is considered the father of the fathers of Wadi al-Natrun. Number two, the region of the Red Sea was a safe haven for the monks of Wadi al-Natrun during the attack of barbars in their place. Number three, the fathers of the monastery of St. Anthony were keen for commemorating the disciples of St. Anthony, especially these who became monastic leaders in Wadi al-Natrun through drawing icons and wall painting
John the Short came originally from the Red Sea to Wadi al-Natrun, or the contrary,
from what you
because to his monastery is Wadi al-Natrun. But why? Because John the Short of Kalsan. Why? Apart from the question. So, what does it mean? Some disciples of Saint Anthony immigrate to Wadi al-Natrun, or the contrary, some monks from Wadi al-Natrun immigrate to the Red Sea. We understand now because a lot of people they abandon maybe their place from Wadi al-Natrun to go to the Red Sea.
False.
Yes. Well, can you please explain?
Among his our leader fathers from Wadi al-Natrun moved to Saint Anthony Monastery in the sea. Two points. The first point to receive the life of monastic life from Saint Anthony and to teach the roots from Saint Anthony. And the two points that the Papal who find the fathers in Wadi al-Natrun, this means that the fathers in Wadi al-Natrun remove and escape to Kalzama beside St. Anthony Monastery. And at the same time, that the disciples of St. Anthony removed to Wadi al-Natrun maybe to complete their lives there under the hand of St. Martyrus and to live in the large desert with a good atmosphere to the monastic life there.
Maybe because of the attack, but so-called Papal
Yes.
from Wadi al-Natrun.
The second times between
Yes.
second or half century until 8th century.
Or to teach teaching and to receive the real monastic life from the Red Sea. I mean, and both.
Both,
Two
yes,
reasons.
both. Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
You illustrated an icon for St. Anthony, and there was the cherry beside it.
Yeah.
Yes. And in his life, there is no appearance of this like Saint Cat.
But
First
descriptions of
First icon.
first.
First icon. No, no. The first one. Before. I guess.
The same mechanics. He received the roots of monastic life from Saint Anthony.
Sorry.
Yes.
Is there any sort of evidence for transferring the manuscripts from one
Yes.
to
We have to discuss this point with the fathers there in the library monastery Red Sea. Maybe there are some manuscripts transferred from the Surian especially to the St. Anthony Red Sea.